My name is Engineer Yomi Fowode, and here is my good old days story. I am an information systems and management consultant. I was born into Fowode family of Okeagbo in Ijebu and a maternal family of Okelano from Owu clan in Abeokuta. My father was a civil servant, while my mother worked and retired as a matron in the nursing profession. She's still alive, enjoying the fruits of her labor. We are a family of 7, of which 4 of the 5 children are boys. I am the firstborn, and the lastborn of the family is the only girl. An imagination of how the boys could be managed when tantrums and tricks were played could be better imagined. All around us in our formative and growing-up years, we had some of our uncles and aunties living with us, and that gave us opportunities to learn faster, be streetwise, and grow beyond our real age. In those years, set values and good names were the passport to get anything. I remembered those good olden days that my father would tell us, always remember the child of whom you are. This became a watchword for me and guided my actions and reactions to issues of life. One interesting thing that came to mind is another fact that you are a child of your parents, your neighbors, your community, your teachers, your school, your church, your family, friends, and all acquaintances. This naturally makes it tough for you to act stupidly outside the home, as you don't know who might see you and discipline you before reporting you to your parents for further actions and reprimands. The experiences of my secondary school days at the prestigious Comprehensive High School Ayutthaya, Compro as it is called, are also of mentioning. It's a school with many firsts, including being the foundation and the rock on which 6334 educational policy of this nation, Nigeria, is now built. It was a school built to international specifications, where international conferences were held and people from all walks of life assembled. It is still refreshing in memory when the then head of state, General Olusegun Obasanjo, held an international conference at the school conference center in the 70s. We remember that day he gave the school 1 million naira for improvement on the facilities. Can't say much more about the state of that facility today. God help us. God help the system that throws away opportunities to preserve legacies. My experiences in Compro varied. I was a student, I was a footballer, I was a school prefect, I was a teacher at a time, and then later, a member of the board of governors. As a footballer, I made my mark, which earned me a nickname that some still call me today, Okoro. If you know, you must know. And as a school prefect, people know, and students under me know I was a tough one. I was a disciplined person. But today, I'm happy. When we meet now, we recall this situation then and we rejoice over them. However, one remarkable event that readily comes to mind now was the welcoming party held for us by the school as freshers. We, the small boys and girls, were invited to dance with HSC boys and girls, and if we refused, we were threatened to be punished. So later we realized that it was to take off the shyness in us and eventually build our confidence. Today, life has changed and is further changing due to integration of foreign values into our system. We tend to copy foreign ideas into our culture without thinking of the repercussions. Now here we are, unable to manage the consequences. While it is good to think global, it is equally imperative for us to act local. All hope is not lost. We can still change the narrative. It's never too late to stop this fastly to the precipice. We can have a cultural rebirth and a sound ethical orientation that will give us a nation, a better vision of a new day, a promising tomorrow that will outshine the good old days. We can do it. Yes, we can. Finally, I join the entire world to appreciate my dear brother, Shimori Badejo, and his team for this modest effort geared towards a greater tomorrow. And I wish and continue to wish them the best. Congratulations, Concrete Communications Limited team, for a brighter future in advance. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Usaywa Sale, and I have Norma with me in the cold weather. How are you, Norma?
I'm good. I am well. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Let me put it that way. Oh my goodness. Life can try you, but it is well.
It is well. Oh, it is well. So we're flying solo today.
We are flying
Yes,
solo.
but it
is well with our ladies.
It is well, oh, honestly.
It is well.
Like you have a large team of ladies and all of a sudden something has to happen. It is well. We thank God. All right, so I've been depressed for a while. Yeah, and it's because of this conversation that we're having today. We're discussing toxic relationship, and we're asking if we can just normalize the idea of walking away from toxic relationships. And here's what we found as today's quote. Please know that you can get out and it will always be an easy road it will not always be an easy road, and it will be lonely at times, but it only gets better. Life is too beautiful to live it trapped and abused and hiding under the shame of it all. Overcoming the stigma of intimate partner abuse. That was the quote by them, the people. So it's just a sad situation. I mean, we all heard of the recent death of Osinachi Nwachukwu, of the epic Ekweme worship song. Really hit hard. It really hit hard. A report showed that she was a victim of domestic violence who suffered abuse in the hands of her husband until he eventually took her life. And the late singer was said to have sought help from the church, but was advised to carry on and keep her marriage. So it's our ladies' night out, and Norma and I will be discussing this. We're asking, how can we just normalize walking out of toxic relationship, right? Can we welcome that idea? And when we open our phone lines, I would really love to hear, I'd love to hear tonight from, if you're suffering from this, you're in a toxic relationship, or you've suffered from it before and you walked away, what gave you the strength to be able to walk away? And if you're suffering from it and you do not know what to do, it would be nice to hear why you feel like you're stuck in that relationship, right? All right, so we'd love to really hear from our viewers today. And please, but we'll do all of that. Let's take a break first of all to see what we found in the news. All right, you're still watching Ways. On April 12, 1961, Yuri Gagarin, a Soviet citizen, carried out the first human space flight. On the mission Vostok 1, Yuri Gagarin completed one orbit around Earth over 108 minutes in the Vostok 3Ka spacecraft, right, launched on the Vostok K rocket from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, USSR. Now, on April 7th, 2011, the United Nations General Assembly, in its resolution, declared April 12th to be celebrated as the International Day of Human Space Flight. April 12th is also celebrated as Cosmonautics Day in the Soviet Union, and Yuri's Night, also known as World Space Party, is also held every April 12th to commemorate milestones in the space exploration. I cannot wait to go to space.
This is one place that I'm yet to receive the
anointing,
the strength really to be part of. It's so vast. I don't know. I may just lose it if I go, but I mean, it's something I'm looking forward to.
With a
little bit of
no, but people go to space.
I know people have been going to space, but for me, I'm a very visual person. So just being at a height, I see everything. Talkless of out of space, that's a lot.
I can't wait. I can't wait to fly that. That would be one of my greatest
achievements, right?
So, what did you find for us in the news?
Well, I found really interesting the story of Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister for United Kingdom, the case that he had when it was said. So the topic, it says Boris Johnson fined by police over lockdown breaking parties at UK government premises. And the story goes that the Prime Minister and his finance minister Rishi Sunak had been issued with fines by police over the lockdown breaking parties that were held in UK government premises at Downing Street. And the London Metropolitan Police had earlier on Tuesday issued more than 50 fines as part of the Operation Hillman investigation into gatherings held on government premises in Downing Street and Whitehall, while the rest of the country was living under strict pandemic restrictions. Revelations of the parties sparked national outrage at the time that it happened. So it during the COVID-19
the heat of the COVID-19
pandemic, there were parties that were organized by the Prime Minister, and he himself had apologized actually that for breaching the lockdown rules, which he said he paid the fines that were issued. He made a statement and said that today I've received a fixed penalty notice from Metropolitan Police relating to an event in Downing Street on the 19th of June 2020. Let me say immediately that I paid the fine and I once again offer a full apology. Johnson was saying he did not specify the amount he had paid in fine, but I see that a lot of this is going to go down quite seriously. They're taking it very seriously, and I think it's commendable for the police to take it up, because our leaders need to know that they are held accountable. They are not exempt from any rules and regulations, and they should actually be the ones in the front seat, pushing these laws or pushing these rules, because as they're seen as examples or role models, whatever they do, people are going to emulate it. People are going to follow them through. So I think this one is a good one to use. Nobody's above the law. Whether you're prime minister, whether you're the president of a country, you are to abide by rules and regulations. It shows that you are a person of integrity, and I'm happy that he's going to be paying his fines because it holds him accountable.
Okay, so my story is actually a video that I saw. Was really heartbreaking. I would like if they can just play that video. It's linked to what we're talking about today.
The story that we have today.
Thank you, as you shall not die before I die in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I shall preserve her in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Thank you, oh Lord, Jehovah, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
In the mighty name of Jesus' name.
Amen.
In the mighty name of Jesus.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord, for your birthday today. As I celebrating that, nothing shall happen to you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
You shall live to declare the word of God in the land of the living in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Nothing shall happen to you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Anywhere you go, they shall see God in you.
Amen.
In the mighty name we have prayed.
Amen.
Oh, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So God, we pray that we thank you, Father, for our birthday. Father, Lord, we thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
We pray you shall add how many more years into our year in Jesus' name.
Amen.
We shall live long and declare the works of the Lord in the land of the living in Jesus' name.
Amen.
She shall sing and win souls for God.
Amen.
And the Lord bless you. Amen. And keep you.
Amen.
And cause His face to shine upon you. Amen. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Power with the blood of Jesus.
Blood of Jesus.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Bless. Father, we thank you.
Deborah, pray for mommy.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Ask that God will bless you many more years.
Amen.
You shall be fruitful.
Amen.
You shall not die.
Amen.
You shall live and prepare the works of the Lord in the land of the living.
Amen.
You shall not die.
Amen.
If the devil's work wants to attack you, you shall go back to sender.
Amen.
In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed.
Amen.
Right, so that's the late singer Sinachi. Their children, I think it was her birthday, the last birthday she celebrated before her demise, praying for her. So why I took this story, what struck me the most was how the the children kept on repeating the word, you shall not die, you shall not die, you shall not die. You know, it was really instructive for me, right? For them to be, I can't imagine. Okay, so I understand that passage of the Bible that is always like at the forefront of every prayer that I say, you shall not die, but live to declare the works of the Lord, you know, and all of that. But I mean, for children, I don't know. I don't think if my kids are called up to pray for me, death will be like at the
front
burner of the conversation. It would be more like, oh, God will bless the works of your hands. You would prosper, you know, and all of that. Continue to take on new grounds, new territory. But for the children to keep on reiterating the fact that you shall not die, you shall not die, it's almost like, you know. So for me, it was just a bit surreal.
I can imagine. I mean, I've not been myself, and not just because this is something that affects Osinachi. We've been in situations, but I will not go into those details now. But it's something that has happened over and over and over again.
Even to the best of us.
To the very best of humans. And these children are even the ones that I'm more concerned about, because these children, they see everything, they know everything. For children to be praying, you shall not die, this and that, you can only imagine that prayer is coming from a place of information. It is coming from a place of exposure,
also
from
the
things that they've
of the
seen.
heart.
So
the mouth speaks.
Exactly. So it's really touching, and it's so, like you rightly said, it's so surreal, it's so heartbreaking, and nobody should ever find themselves in this situation.
Absolutely. We'll take a break because that's all our talking points for today. I mean, such a sober day. But when we come back from the break, we want to discuss walking away from toxic relationships or friendship or whatever it is. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, referencing an article from Help Guide, why doesn't she just leave? Is a question many people always ask when they learn that a woman is suffering battery and abuse. But if you are in an abusive relationship, you know that it's not that simple. Ending a significant relationship is never easy. It's even harder when you've been isolated from your family and friends, psychologically beaten down, financially controlled, and physically threatened. Now, if you're trying to decide whether to stay or leave, you may be feeling confused, uncertain, frightened, and torn. Maybe you're still hoping that your situation will change, or you're afraid of how your partner would react if he discovers that you're trying to leave. One moment you may be desperately want to get away, and the next you may just want to hang on to that relationship. There's a mixed feeling. So maybe you even blame yourself for the abuse, or feel weak and embarrassed because you've stuck around in spite of it all. Don't be trapped by confusion, guilt, or self-blame. The only thing that matters is your safety, right? Now, so do you believe that the society can start to be more empathetic and normalize walking out of toxic relationships? Because I think they have put some mystery behind it and abnormality behind it, and that's why a lot of people, even when they find themselves in life-threatening situations, they stay there. Now, that's the question. Can we begin to normalize walking away from toxic relationship? Now, please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-8038-4663. You can also tweet at us at WadeShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WadeShow. All right, Unoma, I was going to say to bringing it back to Osinachi's story, there was a story that came out about 3 hours ago or 4 hours ago now on Linda Ikeji's blog, where the mother, right, Osinachi's mom came out to say that, and I think I shared it in the group, where she came out to say that he told my daughter she will never leave their marriage in death. You are only in death, right? Yeah. And also the twin sister narrates her experience. So she was saying that as a mother, she was not even able to go and see her daughter, her grandchildren. For 8 years, she was banned from the house. So how you identify a predator is very important. When you are in a relationship where it seems like you are shielded from your family cannot visit, you can't do anything, you're controlled. Because again, a lot of the gospel artists that came out, and even some pastors that accused the husband, said that he was constantly ensuring that negotiations around her finances, when she goes to perform, he was in charge. He was her manager. He was in charge. There were some, he said, that if they don't pay a certain amount, he would not allow her to go, right? And you know what now struck me the most, Noma? When I read further down the story, she actually left the marriage for over a year. She left that marriage for over a year, only to return after some pastors came to beg. Who are those pastors? Please, let us call them out. Because they need to be jailed alongside with the husband. So she actually left the marriage. It just brings me back to, remember that story of the lady, I think he was a banker, maybe she worked with Skybank or so, that she had left. She only came back to pick a few things, and that was how the husband, killed her. So I'm really, really just, torn apart, because it's not even so much of this person. I just saw another story where a girl died at childbirth with a child in her womb, and the mother has come out to accuse the son-in-law because there were bruises that indicated that she was constantly being battered, even in pregnancy. So these stories is not new, and the stories are everywhere. The only thing that is making this a bit out there in the open is because of the person that
some level of popularity,
the popularity that she
for her music. And even coming from that angle, when you listen to Ekwueme, it's such, you could feel the passion. Before now, having realized what's going on, you could feel the depth of that music. It came from
her soul,
deep place. And they say that musicians find outlet through their music. So sometimes some of the things that they're going through is embedded in, the words of their music and all of that. And that probably would have been an outlet for her to express from deep inside that it's like, I don't have help coming from anywhere except from God. But unfortunately, I don't know how it came to be that there was not one single person. Well, I can remember several times that we've gone to literally pull people out of violent and toxic relationships, just for them to, if I don't know, I'm thinking, this is so personal for me because it's something that we're hugely invested in. Women and, helping them to find their feet and all of that. And even gone into situations where we've had to
literally pull police
people out of relationships that almost killed them. So hearing this, I'm wondering, in all of the people that knew what was going on, there was not one person that could step in and pull this woman away, separate the two of them for a bit. Let's even have some space in between. Let's even look from a distance, from a different angle. Let these two people clear their heads. Let's see if it can help to resolve what the situation is. And this woman goes back.
Noma, okay, so I like what you've just said, because at reading further down that story, the mother said that she had told her a couple of times to leave, but Osinachi insisted on staying, insisting that the Bible frowns at divorce. So now we are talking about normalizing walking out of toxic relationships. Who do we start to hold? Because I like Funke Felix Adejuwon. She came out.
Yes.
And a couple of pastors, even the Poleneche, I believe she's a member of his church, came out. They had to go and pull out an old video where he was talking don't go and die in a marriage.
That is better to be alive.
Yes, than to be dead. Because now you have kids. The kids are there. Because again, part of why a lot of women stay in toxic relationship, they say, oh, my children, what will happen to my children? What will happen to my... But when you die, what will happen to them?
Well, so let me start by saying that one of the first things I've realized in toxic relationships is that an unconscious programming takes place, first and foremost. whether it's in the relationship when you've not even gotten married. Unfortunately, very unfortunately, there's some of these signs that are already there. But sometimes in the euphoria of love and, dating, I like this person so much, you're not so much as paying attention to that angle. Okay, so it has happened. We find that these things begin to happen. So gradually, these people who find themselves in toxic relationships begin to be programmed unconsciously into believing that. So it starts with, these your friends are becoming too much of a problem, they're always around, can't you just, we need to have time for ourselves. The next thing is, your friends, you can't come to the house anymore, you are just fresh in marriage, we need to know ourselves. So isolation begins to happen. The next thing, family members are becoming a problem, and gradually you begin to isolate. And another thing is that some of these predators, they already know they are victims. There are things that they look out for people, that they know whether you're insecure. So they can come from the place of insecurity to shield you, to become everything, your support, this and that and that and that. Shield you so much that you're seeing all of probably the love that they're showering on you without realizing that this is a sort of cocoon that they are beginning to build, so that when they strike, no one can come to your aid. So they say, he loves it. You hear things like that. When we are counseling people, young people who are having trouble in their relationships and their marriages. But he loves me. He does this. He does that. He says he's sorry, even when he shouts at me and all of that. Disgraces you in public and comes and buys gifts and say, because he knows that your love language, for example, is gift. So he'll do something, insult you, bring you down through verbal abuse or emotional abuse, and then goes and buys you flowers or goes and buys you a gift that he knows that you will like. And then you say, I'm forgiving him, he loves me, this and that. Nobody is deserving of disrespect on any level. So when you find that somebody constantly continues to belittle you, continues to disrespect you, has no regard for who you are or any form of self-worth, those are pointers that already this person is toxic in the relationship that they so-called invested in. So, it's a very, very big situation. Now, another thing is that culture, our religion and culture play a significant role in allowing these things to thrive. We say that the silence of the victim is the power of the predator or the person that is victimizing people. How did people become silent? Because when you come out, they say, what will you say? A lot of families continued to cover up situations, even when they knew that something was wrong. They would say, you cannot be the one that will break your home. You need to stay in and fix it. You need to try. Maybe you are the one. You're not being submissive. You are not listening to your husband. You are the one annoying your husband. You need to listen to him. You need to do this. You need to call him your Lord. This and that and that. At the end of the day, these people, for her mom to come out, who knows? You mirror a lot of things without even knowing. These children, God forbid, if they have the opportunity when they grow up, if help does not come their way, I can bet you that it will repeat itself again. They will attract what they hate, because at the end of the day, that is all they know. And you can't give what you don't have.
I was going to say that, when I looked at this topic, how can we normalize walking out of toxic relationships, right? The first thing that came to my mind was that line when you're taking your vows that says for better or worse. I think that line has to be expunged.
A lot of churches have removed that line, actually.
But a lot of churches still have that line embedded there, because now you have planted, because you remember you said something about the subconscious mind. You have planted it in the head of this person that there will be bad times, right? So it is for better or worse, we'll stay in this marriage till death do us part. So that's why the husband will say, until she dies, she doesn't leave this marriage. And that's why she would also believe that it is only death that can separate her from that man. So if we want to normalize walking out of toxic relationship, we must completely expunge that line when taking marital vows, right? It is, we must make it okay. If the person says, I need a break, nobody should question. First of all, say, okay, you understand? How do we help you to take a break? Before you begin to ask, okay, so what went wrong? How do we fix this or something? First of all, take that person out of the situation. The person that is inside that relationship understands why they
wear the shoes.
They need the break.
They wear the shoes. They know
wearing
what
the
fits.
shoes. I posted something today on my page on Instagram. I said, these things, we are very quick. Look at the mother that posted the battery. I mean, they were showing the pictures while you were talking. The battery of her daughter. That is a physical pain. There are some people that are going through emotional torture. How do you quantify the pain, and how do you quantify the impact that emotional torture
there are no scars
has on that person?
You don't see readily the scars.
You don't have those scars, right? So if somebody comes to you and says, this is what I am going through, we all must be alert and say, you know what? How can I come in? How can I come in? Let me help you. And how can we, first of all, take you out of that toxic relationships? We should stop this question of, is he beating you? Is he not providing for you? Is he not bringing money to the house? What kind of questions are these? These are the most lame questions I hear.
Well,
So because somebody is not beating me, because somebody is providing food for the house, because somebody is paying school fees and all of that, does that qualify him or her to be beside me as a partner? No. Partnership, marriage is a partnership. If you are not ready to be committed 100%, where you show that you respect this person, you love this person, you regard this person, and not constantly shoving disrespect on the person's face, then you are not ready to be in that relationship.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And in addition, just to take it from another angle, especially where you said that that line should be expunged. I can't readily remember whether that line was there when I made my vows. I took it. But you see, something that really helped me in my marriage personally was when we went through our marriage counseling. And one of the first things, that our marriage counselor, who was also a pastor, he was very real. He came up with real life situations. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? The number of children that you're going to have. Things that normally when you are in this lovey-dovey situation, you will not think about it. But it brought us to go back to go and ask questions, to ask one another questions. How do we see this? Are we in alignment with XYZ and things like that? Because in conversations, couples are not, I think one of the major things that happens is that we are majorly unenlightened. We are not enlightened. A lot of people do not have true knowledge. Even when they say for better, for worse, or it's not in sickness and in health, and till death do us part. Those things were broken down in a sense. So in sickness and in health, when somebody that you love, for example, is going through pain, you want to be able to be there for them. You want to be able to help them. When somebody that you love is dying, you want to be there for them till their last breath. When somebody that you love is, what's the other line? In worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and for better, for worse. So the worse, those things were not elaborated. It was just capped in worse.
It was vague.
So it is very vague. It is not everything that goes under the category of worse. Worst situations is that you can have storms in relationship. There can be bankruptcy. Oh, we're in this together. How do we get out of it? There could be a challenge of childbirth. Are we still together in this relationship because I just realized that I had an accident, I don't have a womb, I don't have... I'm telling you. So these things were not elaborated for a lot of people. So they just kept it as worse. So you are killing me and that means what? No, that does not mean worse. That is a completely different arrangement. The death in that commitment or that vow that you made did not mean that you would take a knife and kill me. It meant that if it comes to the point, we grew all together till we now move on.
We have bastardized that.
So we have really changed these things and changed the narrative to cause people to find themselves in places of victimization, and the religious bodies have fueled it. The cultural setting has fueled it. So guess what? People are dying in their relationship. It is obvious that I came into this relationship to be nurtured, to be loved, to grow, to prosper, to be somebody that will be impactful in society, and I'm dying. I was a flower when I came, and today I am a dead seed. That was not what I signed up for. So if our religious bodies and our cultural setting can get real, they need to open their eyes, because we are breeding a new generation of people who are dead to humanity. Who are dead to themselves and to their neighbors or to their family and all of that, that they have no feeling
at all. I was talking to someone today. I said, I thought I never had the capacity to love, because it got to a stage where I just became numb emotionally. I had to put myself in that state of numbness emotionally, because it was important for me to protect
your sanity.
My sanity. So if I am numb emotionally, I don't get to feel
the pain
and all of that. So when I hear you speak about how we're breeding a crop of people that do not even understand, what this is all about, and we're breeding animals in the name of marriage and all of that, it just brought to my mind why you see a lot of young people. Because the reverse is the case now.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't want to get married.
Never. No. I'm not interested. If this is what marriage looks like,
I don't want it.
Me out. Or you see a lot of people, they just go in, after 1 month or more, I'm not going to take it, right? So we have a lot of people, because now you mentioned the children, and that is the reality. It's a vicious circle, right? When we are doing things and we're not thinking about the impact it will have emotionally, it will have mentally, it will have on the children, right? On their psychology.
The larger case is, tomorrow you're thinking this is happening to somebody else. What if the child of that person and your child meet and tomorrow they want to get married, and this child is coming from a mindset, a very warped and distorted mindset.
Absolutely.
When your own child is involved, how differently are you going to take that situation?
All right, let's take a break, right? I'd really love to open our phone lines to hear. This is actually a very, it's a sober day for us, but we'd love to hear what you have to say about this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Now, if you just tuned in, it's a ladies' night out, and we are, and our focus tonight is we're asking, how can we normalize, right? We need to normalize walking out of toxic relationships. Don't stay there and die and say because you have to be there for better, for worse. Till death do you part, right? Please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081 803-846663. You can also tweet at us at PlusTvAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. Our phone line is also now open. To number to call is 07025 007749 07025007749. Please remember the rules. Turn off the volume of your television set so we can hear ourselves clearly. You know, I like how we have broken down that line. Till death do us part has always been, from the concept that I understand it to be, that we grow old together, you know, and we hold each other's hands, and, you know, one party dies, the other party dies, or we die together. That is what till death do us part means. But now people are in relationships where it is almost constant, and yet, you know, you are not leaving that toxic relationship because you've been fed that idea that it is death that must take you out of that marriage. And that's why we're having a lot of people, their dead bodies in coffins, leaving marriages. But let me take our first caller for the evening. Thank you for calling.
Good evening.
Hi, thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
Yes, this is the youngest postman.
You're welcome.
Yeah, first I want to state a statement that anything I speak to you is from experience as a married queen. And as a matter of fact, I've seen a lot of marriage, and I can tell you the ups and downs of marriage, and I'm still learning today. However, toxic relationship comes from day one. Then it appears in the middle of the relationship. From day one, there must be a red flag. Something must have happened. Please pardon my English. That shows you that this kind of thing might happen in the future. Like maybe you had someone or two temperament things, and see the way you guys go, what the kind of words that comes out from him. I think I had a guy that told his girlfriend that he's going to kill her and put her in the fridge and eat her meat. They're in a relationship with her, just dating. Now, if a guy can tell you that, jokingly or not jokingly, it's a red flag. Now, you coming out from toxic relationship is as simple as jotting situations. When you jot situation, you compile it and see. It's not the other, and it can happen to both sexes, from the male or the female. You understand? But all we need to know is you try to understand where things are going out of hand. I do have quarrel with my wife. Sometimes we spend 3 days, we don't even talk to each other, I don't even eat her food. And our kids will not know. Seriously, we'll go into the room, we'll lock, we thrash it out, we discuss, we clear it out. Sometimes we will write agreement and sign. You see how funny it is. But nothing goes above board. We don't go to the side, I'll kill you, I'll beat you, I'll destroy you, I'll maim you. Those language, when you start coming out, it's just flag, no matter how angry you are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, youngest old man.
So people should understand where there's red flag, and if you start coming out, don't even go to a friend.
Thank you.
Don't go to a crazy. Let me tell you one funny thing that people do. When I had a problem sometime in my marriage, do you know where I went? I went to a man, an elder man that had 4 wives sometime, like, though he's not having any now. And I went to him and said, Baba, this is what I'm going through. Please, what can I do? He said, my brother, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. I decided not to go to any clergy because someone has not been married cannot be advising you on marriage. Marriage is bigger than that. Marriage needs 100% experience for somebody to advise you. You cannot be a married woman and be having a friend that is a spinster. You cannot be a married man and be having a friend that's a bachelor that will be advising you about marriage. People are making that mistake. You go to a priest that has not been married for what? Marriage is a big business. There are red flags. People underline it.
Thank
and
you.
I'm saying this from experience.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You know, he said something, and I'd like to stick to that. When he said that from the red flag is always and has always been that it is from day one.
Yeah.
Then it shows up in the middle of the relationship. Then eventually, you know, some people just go south, and that's the truth, right? You know how we stupidly think that
people would change.
People would change that
when they get into marriage.
When they get into marriage, you know, maybe this is just because the person is young, or I can change her, I can change him. You know, the red flag always shows up from day one. So you know, because of the years that I have, you know, I have lived, let me say
on
it that
the
way,
earth.
on this earth, I say to people that what you cannot take 10 years down the line in any relationship, do not take it from day one, because it will show up, and guess what? It will show up with so much audacity, and that it will.
Absolutely.
By then, it would have grown wings.
Effrontery would
with
be just
so much effrontery and audacity.
Epic.
And guess what? That time, it is a lot more irritating, a lot more, like in your face.
You generally have short
in your
fuse
face.
at that time.
You know what? Let me take a call, and I'll come back to you, Noma. Someone from Warri, thank you for calling.
Okay, hi.
Morgan, thank you for calling.
Okay, thank you. I just want to speak on the legal perspective.
Okay.
Because that's where I'm most concerned. What is done to these men? Because that's where I'm concerned. Because many a times we always speak about the clergy. We always we want the church to act. We want the society to say no about it. But if the law stands up against it, I'm sure a lot of people will control themselves.
They'll go to
know
jail.
where they will go to.
Yeah.
If there is a clear-cut punishment for those kind of actions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's number one.
Okay.
Secondly, women do any kind of thing because they want to get married. And so they tolerate a lot of things, even during the dating and courtship period. I feel strongly that you cannot give everything out because you just want to get married. You need to be very careful about who you get married to. Like the previous caller said, the red flags are always there. But we see them and we say, no, this is the devil fighting against my marriage. This opportunity I've got. So I feel strongly that women should be willing to cut right, and when they see these red flags, they say no and step aside.
Thank you so much, Morgan. And I love your angle that it is, because you see, it's one thing for you to say, I pray, pastor, pray. But if you know that you're going to be hung, they will just jail you, right? There are some things that you would probably just not do. You walk out of the marriage and say, get out of my house. It's better you chase her out than for you to kill her.
Well, I think there are laws to that effect. There's even the the Ministry of Women Affairs or something like that.
Even she visited the home, the Minister for Women Affairs.
Okay.
She actually visited the children. I saw some video online, that she went to visit the children
after
and all of that.
she died.
Yes, she went to visit. So it is very clear that the law will take its course in this. But I'm saying that the thing has
Did
already
it have
happened.
to get to
Do you
death?
understand?
Did she
I
have
don't want to die.
Did she have to die?
I don't have to die for the thing to happen.
So we were talking, the topic is normalizing walking away. The thing is...
Sorry, Norma, I think we have Fred on the line. Thank you for calling, then I'll come back to you. Fred, are you there? Go ahead. You're live.
Hello?
Yes, Fred, thank you for calling. Let's hear what you have to say.
What I want to say is pretty simple. I feel that a white man was not wrong in making something called divorce. So if a relationship is not working, you should just divorce it. And I believe this thing that everybody runs to a church seeking advice, I think on your own, with your own conscience, if the marriage is not favorable, and
Thank you.
well,
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Fred.
that's what it is.
Thank you so much, Fred. So, what you were saying?
Yeah. I was trying to...
Saying that the topic, normalizing
walking away. I think most of the people who find it difficult walking away is due to the cultural implications, the religious implications. A lot of people are not taught to know that there is support even in the... So before now, you will be seen as being ostracized, or people will be pointing, oh, that woman left her marriage. It was seen to be a bad thing to want to walk out of a relationship that was not working. And people did not even take the time to find out what is going on. And even if they found out that whether or not
go ahead,
whether or not the fault was yours or not, the fact that something is wrong in this relationship did not even make them to think in that direction. So you are looked at as the person that destroyed her home. You are looked at the person that doesn't want to keep her home. And it's a problem in our society. It's a major problem.
God help me today.
So being able to normalize it is, first of all, empowering the people before they get into the relationship.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let me take Tokwe from Kaduna. Thank you for calling, Tokwe.
Yes, good evening.
Hi, thank you. Go ahead quickly, you're live.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, first and foremost, women in relationship would usually know when they're dating someone who is violent.
Thank you.
And I think it's easier then to work out than in marriage. So I think we need to do more of creating an awareness that watch out in your relationship, know whether you're dealing with a partner that is violent, so that you can easily walk away from there. I know even at that stage, some people will say it's not easy. Some people have invested years into a relationship, but it's much more easier than in marriage. Because as far as we remain a conservative society, we would always have issues of women in marriage wanting to just walk out like that. I was just discussing with someone that as maybe just considering that your children could be in the hands of another woman and you could be treated so badly if you decide to walk out of your marriage, could keep a woman in a marriage, in an abusive marriage. So these are things we must pay attention to and maybe focus on creating an awareness. Women, you are noticing your partner is violent while you are dating, walk away.
Thank you.
Let that be something.
So Tokwe, I'd like to just add a bit on I want to build up on what he said. So it is okay for us to say, when you notice your partner is being violent in the relationship, walk away. I also want the people that are pressurizing these people to go and get married to understand that even if at the point of I do, at any time that you feel uncomfortable with this relationship, it is also okay to let it go. Right? Because again, the pressure is real. You cannot take away that pressure. Stop asking a woman or a young girl, when are you getting married? Right? If she finds the right person, she will settle down.
I was just going to point that out again, because back in the things that affect a human being naturally, you have background, you have the environment that raised them, and then you have the significant emotional experiences that they go through. When people are pressured, you live in a society that pressures you into, some of them, they know they're getting older, maybe they have fewer suitors or things like that. They just want to get this done.
Can we normalize not asking people?
At the end of the day, pressure gets the best of them. They succumb to things that they would not normally succumb to. But because of the pressure, or settle.
Absolutely. Let me take Austin, I think, from Benin.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah. It's very, very, very simple. At the point of courtship, God will reveal to you if this man is going to be your husband or this woman will be your wife. But when it comes to marriage now, we usually take things for granted. We like to take things for granted. Now we think that, he's going to take, for instance, a man that is not into alcohol, and you're going to marry a woman who likes to take alcohol. How would that marriage work? You understand? So you now be thinking that, when you get married, then she will change. You can't change an adult. Even this born again thing we talk about, can't change an adult. You are who you are. So that's what I always tell people. Look, an adult is difficult to change. For instance, my daughter was going to get married to someone, and she called off the relationship. And when I investigated, I discovered that the things that the guy was exhibiting are those things that my daughter didn't like. For instance, trying to be who you are not. Trying to raise shoulders with, other people, trying to, So she doesn't like, well, that's also my kind of life anyway. So, in a nutshell, when you want to get married, God, when you are patient, God will let you know that, look, this person, then you have to now try and marry your friend. You must be compatible. Now, this lady, it's so unfortunate that this lady died. Very, very unfortunate, because now she had left and she came back. Why did she go back? She shouldn't have gone back. And now we hear that they have discovered that guy has a mental problem. That's what is just coming out now. How come they couldn't discover that? And then the poor lady just died like that. It's very annoying that she died. Such a beautiful lady.
Thank you so much.
Talented lady.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Austin.
It could also be a cover, because some people plead insanity when they know the cost of what their actions are going, or the consequences of their actions.
So I want to also plead with the society, right? When somebody says, I want to walk out of my marriage, right? Can we stop to ask all those questions? What would people say? You see, you know why I thank God for the kind of person that I am. You can say whatever you want to say, as long as you are not distorting my peace, right? I think even us as women, men, whatever it is, be okay with people calling you names, right? If they want to call you a divorcee, if they want to call you what's it called, the B word, the what's it called, the P word, whatever it is they want to call you, accept it and own it with your chest. Because you see, it is who that is, it is the person that is alive that they can even look at you and say, Norma, you are a this, you are a that. It is when people are dead, you are gone. You're gone. They will not say, why didn't she walk out of the marriage? But when she was complaining, you people said, no, don't. What will people say? What will the society say? We should stop all of those things, because these things are still very much prevalent. Right? When people look at you and say you are irresponsible because you are not married, or because you are divorced.
You're divorcee.
Right?
Yeah.
Why do we do that? So if we say we want to normalize walking out of toxic relationship, we must also embrace the fact that some relationships were not meant to be. Some relationship needs time apart, right? And some relationships need to be completely severed.
Absolutely. And also, I think support structure is very key in being able to normalize walking out of a toxic environment. For everyone, I would want to applaud women, men. Find yourself before you get into a relationship, because it's not, most people believe that it is the relationship that will help them to find themselves. You have to find yourself, and then you have to now know who is that person that will be comfortable with you being yourself.
Absolutely.
Because when people are not comfortable with you being yourself, it's already a pointer, it's already a problem. Marriage or a union or a relationship is supposed to bring out the best in everyone. It's supposed to be full of respect, of love, of understanding, of support. Right?
If those things
are missing, that already tells you that there's a problem. And then when you have family, your family is very important, because I've seen several cases where people are victimized, and I'm asking, where is their family? How can something like this be happening to your daughter, to your sister, to your mother, or to, I heard of another situation of somebody whose mother was beat into a coma. And and they kept telling her, oh, stay in the marriage, stay in the relationship, you'll be fine, this and that, things will happen. Read Psalm this and Psalm that. And this woman was beaten again into a coma, and she died. And guess what? The father of that man that was sharing this story remarried.
Of course he will. What are you telling me?
You understand? So when you know you have, most times they'll isolate you because they don't want your family involved. That should be a pointer. When you own yourself and you have a support base, nobody can put you.
Well, I want to finally say that
nobody can put you under that situation.
Yeah, I want to say finally that finance is very important, right? A woman needs to be financially empowered. So when you see a woman going through a toxic relationship, if you can help her, do not demand to sleep with her because you want to help her financially, to get out of that situation. Because if she has a steady income and she's earning something, she doesn't need to stay in that relationship. Sometimes they are afraid that how can they fend? How can they do this?
In
How can
this
they do
case,
that?
she even had her voice.
But guess what? Our money
She
was
had
being
her voice,
controlled by
but her
somebody
money
else.
was diverted.
You know, so we need to also understand that there is a huge part that finance plays. But I don't think we can exhaust this conversation. But let's just take some comments, then we'll move on.
I have a comment here. It says, no need expunging part of the marriage vows. The unfortunate thing is lack of knowledge. It is the same Bible that said, it's the same Bible that said we should be wise, walk out from any life-threatening relationships. Some pastors are not helping matters. Yes, there can be job loss, sickness, but not violence. Don't remain there. Lose your sanity and eventually your life. This is from Austin from Delta. Then we have one from Daniel. Thank you, Daniel and Austin. It says, good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying Ways. Concerning the idea of marriage, people have a terrible understanding of it. Before you get married, you must really understand and study the real character of your spouse. People have double character, absolutely. They pretend to you before you get married, and when they get married, eventually they offload the real beast in them. Marriage is not what people think it is. Patience is the watchword. Many people are in a hurry to marry simply because their friends are married and they end up not waiting for their time, and the marriage in return is destroyed. There should be pressure. There should not be pressure in getting married. It is deadly and suicidal.
Absolutely. So this person says no relationship is worth dying for. Good evening, ladies, but you didn't put your name. But you see, I just wanted to quickly say that because a lot of people were commenting on preventive, which is good. Let's talk to the young people when you're getting married. But the truth is, there's a woman there, there's a man there in a toxic
already
relationship.
in a toxic.
You have already entered one chance. You need to get out of that relationship today, because trust me, you think I cannot be that person that is inside that coffin, but that's a big lie.
And truth be told, walking away does not make you a coward
at all. It makes you even courageous in the more, right? It is strength for you to walk away. All right, thank you so much, Noma. Thank you to everyone that called, that tried to call, and the people that sent in messages. Thank you so much. Before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram. It's at PlusTvAfrica, and also on Twitter at PlusTvAfrica1. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media, like, share, and invite your families and friends to continue to watch and follow the conversation. Now, if you missed today's quote, here it is again. Please know that you can get out, and it will not always be an easy road, and it will be lonely at times, but it only gets better. Life is too beautiful to leave it trapped and abused and hiding under the shame of it all. This is from the Overcoming the Stigma of Intimate Partner Abuse group. All right, we'll see you guys live tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring you another great conversation. Enjoy.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
A year after a mob attacked the U.S. Capitol to overturn an election, how far has the investigation moved, and who is being held accountable? go inside the hallways of the Hill, and find out how close America was to losing and keeping its democracy.
Come on, let's go!
Next on the Inside Story, Capitol attack 1 year later. Hi, I'm Katherine Gibson, VOA's congressional correspondent, and welcome to my workplace, the U.S. Capitol. A little more than a year ago, this citadel of democracy was overrun by a mob of people with apparent intent to disrupt the official process of declaring the winner of the 2020 presidential election. 1 year later, the legal and political impact of the Capitol attack is still being determined. Ahead, details on the arrests, the search for accountability, and American attitudes on the January 6th attack. First, where President Joe Biden places the blame.
It has been a year since supporters of Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol to stop lawmakers from certifying the results of the 2020 presidential election won by Joe Biden.
1 year ago today, in this sacred place, democracy was attacked.
Without once mentioning Donald Trump by name, Biden laid the blame squarely on him.
For the first time in our history, a president had not just lost an election, he tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power as a violent mob breached the Capitol.
Biden also blamed Trump for what Democrats called the big lie, the narrative that the 2020 election was stolen, a baseless claim the former president and some Republicans continue to push to this day.
Because he values power over principle, because he sees his own interest as more important than his country's interest, than America's interest, and because his bruised ego matters more to him than our democracy or our Constitution. He can't accept he lost.
Trump canceled his planned news conference and said in a statement that this political theater is all just a distraction for the fact Biden has completely and totally failed. In a statement, Mitch McConnell, the Senate's top Republican, accused Democrats of trying to exploit this anniversary to advance partisan policy goals. Many observers say American democratic institutions had been under stress long before the assault. Strengthening voting rights and election integrity was highlighted by Vice President Kamala Harris as a needed response to the insurrection.
Will it be remembered as a moment that accelerated the unraveling of the oldest, greatest democracy in the world? Or a moment when we decided to secure and strengthen our democracy for generations to come?
The siege has had a global impact. Adversaries, including Russia and China, have used it to defend their undemocratic systems.
For Putin to continue to push the message around the world that U.S. democracy is not something to be longed for, that it is as chaotic and broken as the Russian system is. And for China to argue, as it does, that it has an alternative that is superior.
Biden rejected the arguments.
From China to Russia and beyond, they're betting that democracy's days are numbered. They've actually told me democracy is too slow, too bogged down by division to succeed in today's rapidly changing, complicated world. And they're betting America will become more like them and less like us. They're betting that America is a place for the autocrat, the dictator, the strongman. I do not believe that. That is not who we are. That is not who we have ever been. And that is not who we should ever be.
The road ahead is challenging. Fueled by election fraud conspiracies, Republicans in multiple states have championed legislation limiting voting access and giving them more power over their state's election systems. Democrats say these measures will disadvantage them at the ballot box and are a threat to democracy. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
1 year later, there are still questions about the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol and who was ultimately responsible for the worst attack on the seat of Congress in 2 centuries. Many of former President Trump's supporters claim the breach was not serious, while critics say Trump directed his supporters to overturn Joe Biden's election victory, effectively undermining the democratic process. Rioters roamed the halls of the Capitol building, raising security concerns for lawmakers and staffers who were preparing to certify Biden's election victory.
I'll never forgive former President of the United States and his lackeys and his bullies that he sent to the Capitol for the trauma that what was exerted on our staff.
The U.S. House of Representatives moved swiftly to impeach Trump just days after the riot, alleging he was guilty of inciting the insurrection. But the U.S. Senate acquitted the former president of that charge in February 2021.
He is hereby acquitted.
Lawmakers have held numerous hearings on the security failures of that day. In late June, the U.S. House formed a special select committee to investigate the actions of then President Trump. The panel has issued subpoenas to compel former White House officials and Trump campaign staff to testify about the president's actions that day and the days leading up to the attack.
Find Mark Randall Meadows in contempt of Congress.
The committee is expected to release a report on its investigation before the November 2022 midterm elections, but the findings are not legally binding. In the U.S. courts, 704 individuals have been charged at the federal level with offenses ranging from misdemeanor trespassing charges to more serious charges, including violence against law enforcement and members of the media. Researchers estimate about 70 to 80 individuals involved in militant networks face even more serious charges of conspiracy.
These are the hierarchical domestic violent extremist groups, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, some 3%ers mixed in there, who are alleged to have not just gone to the Capitol to see the speech, to protest, to march, but with a concerted conspiracy ranging from the collection of funds, the dispersal of weapons, of marching up the steps of the Capitol in a stack formation, to leaving guns at a Virginia hotel.
5 people present at the January 6th riot died. The question still being debated is whether the chaos developed spontaneously or was part of a planned insurrection directed by the then President of the United States. I'm here on the east front of the U.S. Capitol, and I'm looking down at the walk to work that I take every day and have made thousands of times over the years as I walk to work with lawmakers and legislative aides and the thousands of support staff. We all make this our routine place of work, and I'm usually thinking about the story that I'm going to be writing that day. Of course, on January 6, 2021, I was instead watching thousands of rioters overwhelm these grounds. And I was thinking about how the most secure building in the world, where I've always felt safe, was suddenly the most unsafe place. There were rioters breaking glass. They were overwhelming U.S. Capitol Police that I know personally. And all I could think about was whether or not the colleagues that I see every day would be safe in these hallways. We're just steps away from the chamber of the U.S. Senate right now, and in a hallway where I do a lot of my reporting, shouting questions during press conferences with Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer. But of course, on the day of the Capitol riot, this was very different. It's a place where a lot of the most famous images of that day happened, from rioters rappelling down the walls of the U.S. Senate to carrying Confederate flags past some of these paintings. We're also very close to the spot where U.S. Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman directed rioters away from U.S. senators, dramatically changing the course of that day. That's how I'm going to remember this hallway from now on. Of the 725 people arrested and charged with crimes for the Capitol attack, more than half work in what are considered white-collar jobs, including business owners, architects, doctors, and lawyers. That analysis by University of Chicago professor Robert Pape also shows that just 13% of those arrested were part of violent militia groups. So who are these people? Our Carolyn Pursuti shows us some of them.
Of the thousands of supporters of former President Trump who stormed the Capitol, more than 725 have been arrested and charged with crimes. Floridian Robert Scott Palmer received the stiffest sentence yet, more than 5 years for assaulting a police officer with a dangerous weapon. Palmer is seen here spraying officers with a fire extinguisher, then throwing the canister at police. VOA was scheduled to interview Palmer, but he's in jail in quarantine after catching COVID. In a letter to the judge before sentencing, Palmer blamed former President Donald Trump and his advisors, writing, "They kept spitting out the false narrative about a stolen election and how it was our duty to stand up to tyranny." Another Capitol rioter from Florida, Felipe Marquez, says fake stories about human trafficking led him to join the uprising and to invade a senator's office. Marquez pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct in a restricted building and received 18 months probation. He told VOA in an email, "I would like to leave this in my past as a mistake."
I was trying to get more known for conservative content and getting views on YouTube, and the way the events of that day folded were terrible.
Name, gender, state.
John Lewis with George Washington University's program on extremism is tracking each case of those who stormed the Capitol.
You have defendants from 18 to 80 years old. You have individuals from every walk of life, from a salon owner to other business owners to firemen to law enforcement to military.
More than 80% were charged based on evidence gathered from social media posts, often their own. Like Texan Jennifer Ryan, who gained notoriety after tweeting this photo in front of a broken window, along with a tweet that read, "We just stormed the Capitol. It was one of the best days of my life." Ryan later tweeted that she was not going to jail because she is blonde and white. Here's what she said as she left the courthouse after pleading guilty to demonstrating inside the Capitol and receiving a 60-day sentence.
I walked into the Capitol for 2 minutes, and I'm remorseful of that.
Ryan claimed her tweets, not her actions at the Capitol, got her into trouble.
I regret ever tweeting, but, it's a free country.
Some of those charged, like Yvonne St. Cyr, are unrepentant.
I own what I do, but I still believe in what I did was the right thing.
Others are not commenting on their case, including the man who propped his feet onto House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's desk and allegedly stole some of her mail. Instead, Richard Barnett, who faces 7 charges, is complaining about jail conditions, including solitary confinement.
You can love me, you can hate me. You can love me and hate what I did. You can not like anything about me. But you have to put that aside, because this isn't about me. This is about our federal prison system in America and what they are doing to people.
Trials have been avoided so far, as defendants have accepted plea bargains, sometimes for a lesser charge. Court observers say hundreds of remaining cases will take years to adjudicate. Carolyn Pursuti, VOA News, Washington.
Investigations by both the Justice Department and Congress will try to uncover the extent to which political extremist groups participated in the planning and execution of the Capitol attack. Seamus Hughes is the deputy director of George Washington University's program on extremism. We spoke about the spike in U.S. political radicalism.
So January 6th was a unique moment. It was a perfect storm, right? So it had the mainstream politicians advocating for it. You had social media that was asleep at the wheel. You had a extremism movement online that was kind of very united on this idea. And conspiracy theories that all walked around January 6th being the moment. So since January 6th, we've had about 700 people who've been charged and arrested related to that event. The vast majority are kind of a pedestrian in nature, almost typical profile. Yoga instructor, construction worker, realtor in Texas. Like you said, they range in charges from misdemeanors to felonies. The vast majority actually weren't part of organized groups. The organized groups are the most concerning for law enforcement's perspective. So those groups are the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, for the most part, and a few 3%ers. So the Oath Keepers are an organized militia group that have been planning and organized for a number of years, this idea of pushing back on what they saw as government overreach. The Proud Boys is kind of a very interesting group. Think of it like a very misogynistic, aggressive pack of men, mostly men, who go around the room kind of attacking other groups. And then the 3%ers who believe that they're the only ones who are standing up against the Republic. So why is law enforcement so concerned about them? Is if you look at the images on January 6th, think of the guys who were walking up in stack formation in camouflage up the steps of the Capitol. So they're organized, they know what they're doing. There is some early reporting that says that they may not have been the first ones to breach the Capitol, but they encouraged others to do so. And once they saw the opportunity, they seized it. So about 3 years ago, the FBI director was asked about how many active investigations he has in all 50 states for domestic terrorism. He said 850. He was asked 3 months ago, and he said 2,700. So we've seen a very large rise in domestic extremism groups. Now, that is a coalescing of the use of social media, so going down a rabbit hole of algorithms that get you down the path where you don't want to go. You have these groups that have been operating with relative impunity for a number of years. The U.S. government and the intelligence community and law enforcement have largely been focused on foreign threats, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and taken their eyes off these domestic groups and allowed them to recruit and radicalize in a clip they haven't had since Oklahoma City. Unfortunately, I think we're all to blame for this. If you look at not only social media, but kind of mainstream sites, the idea that you push this, that the election was a fraud, that election doesn't have integrity upon it, that plays into a larger conspiracy theory. And this sense of, and we also can't discount what happened in the last 3 years for COVID. You have everyone locked down on their computers, not able to interact, feeling like the government's restricting their ability to do something. And so this gave them a right to do something. And so they just kind of got fed into that, again, that rabbit hole. They kept going down and down, where you're in a normal group on Facebook, and before you know it, you're in a QAnon group, and then you're going to a rally, and then you're going to January 6th. It's not that hard of a jump. Social media has not done a very good job when it comes to domestic extremism. They tend to have not policed their own sites. They haven't trained their content moderators on doing what they need to do. And to be fair, they haven't been pressured to do so. You know, every time they go up to Congress, they get kind of very random questions, not targeted. There's no bills that have any real legs in order to regulate them, so they're under no pressure to do so. And in order to do so, we're going to have to, as a society, say, you know, enough is enough. We can't allow this to happen. We have to figure out a way to rein this in, all while understanding this is kind of a private company, can set its own terms and services, but there's something to be said about shaming. Right? There's something to be said about, listen, you know what's going on your platform. You've got to step up and do something. You saw what happened on January 6th, and there's some culpability there. It's clearly a growing problem. We also need to put it in context. And, you know, January 6th happens, but 2 weeks later, the president's inaugurated. There's no rally in D.C. The Justice for January 6th rally in the fall, very few people showed up. In many ways, we've hopefully learned the lessons in terms of getting better security, better intelligence, better information sharing at the national level. My concern is at the state level. We clearly are not on the same page in all 50 states on how to address this issue. And we're seeing these groups, whether it be the Proud Boys or others, move back away from a national model to a state and local model, and they're able to recruit people in their neighborhoods. And unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be a problem that's going to go away. If you look at the threat in the U.S., it's basically fractured. You have ISIS, you have Al-Qaeda, you have white supremacists, you have militia groups, you have QAnon, you have incels, you've got everybody on the map. It makes law enforcement's job a lot harder, and it's going to be, quite frankly, a mess for the next few years.
Political dividing lines are being hardened as former President Donald Trump continues to falsely claim the 2020 election was stolen from him. His influence on the Republican Party is evident as several key states are changing election laws to make it easier to reject results. VOA White House correspondent Anita Powell examines Trump's political influence ahead.
This is the face that launched thousands of angry people on the U.S. Capitol in one of the most stunning days in American history. The few thousand protesters who ended up entering the Capitol that January day sought out lawmakers, in particular House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and former Vice President Mike Pence, as they attempted to formalize Joe Biden's victory over Donald Trump in the November 2020 presidential election. The mob erected gallows, assaulted police and journalists, vandalized, and looted offices. The violence and chaos left 5 people dead, wounded 138 police officers, resulted in charges against more than 720 participants, and landed Trump a last-minute impeachment, his second, just days before he left office. Trump maintains the poll was rigged in the face of overwhelming evidence that there was no election fraud, as do some of his supporters, who continue to attend his post-presidential rallies.
I'm here to see our rightful president that actually won this election, and I just want to hear what he has to say.
Trump was planning to address his followers again on January 6th, but he canceled the event and says he'll instead address his followers at a rally planned for January 15th in Arizona. Observers say he's been busy all year trying to influence sympathetic lawmakers.
So he's trying to limit voting access in states that have diverse populations or ever more diverse populations like Georgia and Texas. He's trying to get people like Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene, 2 members of Congress, to get them more of their own kind of people elected who will do things such as pursue policies designed to keep immigrants out of the United States, policies designed to take the United States out of its international alliances like the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So he has an America First agenda, he has an ego agenda, and he has an agenda about trying to rewrite history to match his false narrative, and he's pursuing that every day.
If anything, says analyst Suzanne Spalding, who leads the Defending Democratic Institutions project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, this galvanizing event has only further divided the United States politically. Republicans who spoke out against Trump right after January 6th seem to have gone silent in the past year. More troubling, she said, polls show that 1 in 3 Americans believes violence against the government is justified. This seems to have given Trump fuel.
I suspect in that sense he has felt emboldened. I think there was, again, in the very first hours after that, those events, a sense among some of the Republican members of Congress that perhaps he had gone too far, and that they thought they had some breathing room to distance themselves. And unfortunately, what seems to have happened is that he has not lost his grip on the Republican Party.
Without naming him, Biden laid blame at Trump's feet in a speech at the Capitol on the attack's anniversary.
He has done what no president in American history, the history of this country, has ever done. He refused to accept the results of an election and the will of the American people.
Trump will likely reference Biden's words during the January 15th rally. But Spalding says the American people, not politicians, deserve the last word here.
I'm always struck by our national anthem, the words that we sing at ballparks and sport arenas all around the country. That starts with a question and ends with a question. It starts with the question of, is the flag still flying? We saw it through the night, through the battle, but now it's the morning. And the question is, does that flag still wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? That's how it ends, with a question mark. And all of us must be part of making sure that that answer every day is yes.
So, a year later, which flag is it going to be? Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
That's all for now. Follow me on Twitter at KGYP, that's KGYP. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at VOA News, and stay up to date online at voanews.com. See you next week for the Inside Story.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from PlusTvAfrica.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on PlusTvAfrica, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
On Plus TV News Now, President Buhari seeks Senate approval for fuel subsidy increase to 4 trillion naira. President Buhari receives report on extended continental shelf project. Islamists killed 20 civilians in eastern Congo. Good evening. I am Maureen Menong-Ezigwe, and this is News Now. President Muhammadu Buhari today in Abuja expressed optimism that Nigeria's bid to expand its maritime territory is fully on course and will be achieved without war or litigation. This was while receiving a progress report from the high-powered Presidential Committee on Nigeria's Extended Continental Shelf Project. The president assured the committee of his full support on Nigeria's submission to the United Nations for additional maritime area under the recognized international convention.
I wish to commend the chairman of the committee, Abubakar Malami SAN, and our team from New York for updating us on this important project. I have always had sufficient interest in the project right from the first day I heard of it, because this type of project where Nigeria will gain additional territory without conflict has never happened before in her lifetime. I am therefore glad that it is happening within our lifetime. This is one of the many reasons why I have been ardently following your progress over time. It is my intention to support the submission to the United Nations for additional maritime area in accordance with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, to claim for Nigeria every bit of space that she deserves under United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. I would like to further inform the committee that I will give you all the support you will need to conclude the project in good time.
The Senate on Tuesday received a request from President Muhammadu Buhari to approve adjustments to the 2022 fiscal framework. Buhari in the letter explained that an adjustment to the 2022 fiscal framework became imperative in view of new developments in both the global and domestic economies. He wants the chamber to approve an increase in the estimated provision for PMS subsidy for 2022 by 3.557 trillion naira, from 442.72 billion to 4 trillion naira. According to him, the developments were occasioned by a spike in the market price of crude oil, which were a fallout of the Russian-Ukraine war. The Senate has passed the Nigerian Peace Corps Establishment Bill 2022. The passage of the bill followed the consideration of the report of the Senate Committee on Interior, chaired by Senator Kashim Shettima. The bill, sponsored by Senator Ali Ndume, seeks to give legal backing to the establishment of the Peace Corps as a government parastatal. It will allow its present officials to be absorbed into the proposed organization at commencement. The bill was passed by the 8th Senate in late 2017 by President Muhammadu Buhari, declined assent to the legislation in February 2018, citing security concerns as one of the reasons for his decision. Vice President Yomi Osinbajo is to host members of the APC caucus in the House of Representatives to iftar, that's the breaking of fast, on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. The Vice President is expected to use the occasion to inform the lawmakers of his intention to contest the 2023 presidential ticket of the APC. Members of the House are automatic delegates to the APC presidential primaries and play a key role in the emergence of the presidential candidate. The national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Abdullahi Adamu, and his deputy, Abubakar Kyari, have resigned from the Senate. Adamu and Kyari tendered their resignation in separate letters read by Senate President Ahmed Lawan on the floor on Tuesday. They said their action became necessary following their emergence as National Chairman and Deputy National Chairman North of the APC, respectively. Peter Obi today visited the PDP chieftain, Bode George, in Lagos to solicit support for his presidential ambition. He believes his credentials as past governor of Anambra State gives him a better chance to run for president. Jacinta Obiuku has more.
Interests are mounting towards the 2023 general elections, and consultations are being intensified by aspirants.
We must not fix this country, or it will consume all of us.
Former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi is also meeting stakeholders to garner support for his presidential ambition. He was in Ikoyi to see PDP chieftain, Chief Bode George.
I'm aspiring to be given opportunity to serve and change the fortune of this country. There's an issue between Osibanjo and Tinubu, son and father. I said, where we are now, we don't mind who is going to solve it. Son, father, grandchild, anybody who will solve it, let him solve it. Educational qualification is not a measure of integrity. We want people with integrity now that can manage our money well. So no time for certificate, no time for grammar. It is time to work for our country. I urge you to listen to all of us who are aspiring, but look at our backgrounds. Don't just take us on face value. The man who is sharing you money today, check what he was doing 26 years ago. So we know where he's getting the money he's sharing. Because he could be sharing your children's money.
They discussed different political issues, including zoning. Chief George supports those who believe it's the turn of the South to rule Nigeria.
Turn by turn, Nigeria limited. Someday it will come to you, no matter you are minority or majority. Brilliant gift to this nation. So I am appealing to our party. The Nigerians, the electorate, they are waiting for our decision.
Bode George stated he's not sure of his stand for Obi, but he's one of those eligible.
I cannot tell you my stand now. As a leader, you don't go out and say, this is your candidate, this is your candidate, this is not my candidate. He's one of the trusted, responsible, respectable one that is coming. It's still a family thing. When we get to the bridge, we will cross it.
It's to ensure that the candidate with capacity, competence, and commitment to change the trajectory of Nigeria is elected in the primaries as the candidate of the party.
As different aspirants continue to seek support of the political class and the masses, it is important to the electorate to critically examine their track records. This cannot be undermined in our quest for a candidate that will deliver quality leadership for the nation. Jacinta Obiuku, PlusTV News.
The federal lawmaker representing Abia North Senatorial District and the chief whip of the Nigerian Senate, Senator Orji Kalu, says he will not contest for the seat of the presidency on the condition that it is zoned to the southeast. Speaking to Senate correspondents at the National Assembly before plenary, the lawmaker said he is not desperate to clinch the #1 seat, but wants the southeast considered in the zoning arrangements.
The decision of the party is supreme. If they zone it to southeast, I'm a #1 candidate. There are only two zones that have never been present in Nigeria, the northeast and the southeast. So if they bring it to my zone, I'm capable. I have everything it takes to deliver APC to the victory, not by talking, by action, and rework the economy. That every Nigerian, no matter where you live or stay, you'll be happy in your pocket, in your house, in your electricity, in your water, in everything, and bring back the proudness of Nigerians to carry Nigerian passports. This one I can be capable of doing. Yes, we are all the candidates know themselves. You know, politics, you people take this politics as a joke. Everybody you say is a presidential candidate. What is their experience? Their public experience, their capacity to build. I employ 13,000 workers in Nigeria. And I have capacity to manage people. Politics is not just his ability to make everybody happy. That is what it's all about. It's not who becomes president. President is about openness, is about ability to manage you journalists, ability to manage mechanics, ability to manage professors, ability to manage legislators like Ahmed Lawan. You have to manage them. These are what politics are.
And as the political sphere heats up in preparedness for the forthcoming general elections, foremost lawyer Niyi Akintola has called on the leadership of the APC to, as a matter of urgency, intervene in the crisis currently rocking the party at the state level. He gave this advice in Ibadan during a chat with newsmen. He lamented the division within the party hierarchy, calling for reconciliation in the shortest possible time.
I only hope what's going on in Oyo State that the national body will act quickly. Because if the national body fails to act quickly, the resultant effect will be your guess. Because it's so obvious that practically every other tendencies in Oyo State is against the same tendency, without exception. Of course, with different reasons and different philosophies and background. But I do know that none of the other 5 tendencies have anything to do with it. So you'll be wondering why this is so. We have challenges in our state, just like any other party. But like I did say, if the national body acts on time, we can see remedies.
And as the 2023 general elections draw nearer, the federal government has reiterated that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is not and will not be a threat to the media. The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, gave the reassurance on Tuesday in Abuja when a delegation from International Press Institute Nigeria chapter paid him a courtesy visit. He said Nigeria had one of the most vibrant and freest press in the world, and the administration was not about to stifle press freedom or deny anyone his or her constitutionally guaranteed rights. The minister noted that some people had misconstrued their effort to ensure a responsible use of social media as an attempt to tamper with press freedom or threaten independent journalism. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, says the military is putting in place strategies to forestall attacks on transportation lines in the country. The CDS stated this at the headquarters of the Joint Task Force Operation Delta Safe in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital. General Irabo was on an operational visit to the state. He spoke to journalists after commissioning about 30 newly acquired security vehicles for the OPDS.
Well, defense, of course, has a part to play, a very major part to play. There are other entities, security agencies that will be playing a part. So it's not within the public domain for me to begin to reel out what strategies we have. All I can assure you is that there will be a serious enhancement within the transportation system, not just transportation, but anything that has to do with peace and security of the country. If you give somebody a task, someone's given the tools to perform the task. Before now, of course, there were tools that we have. Many of them have become a little bit old. So what we've done now is to increase or reinvigorate the tools available to Operation Delta Safe. There will be more. So this is only part of the set of equipment that we are giving them to be able to enhance their ability to perform the tasks that we're giving them. So I believe that it's obvious that the impact will be fairly positive.
The federal government has declared Friday and Monday as holiday for Easter celebrations. The Minister of Interior, Rauf Arebushola, announced the holiday today. He urged Christians to exhibit the attributes of sacrifice, togetherness, forgiveness, kindness, love, peace, and patience, which were the attributes and characteristics of Jesus Christ. In a bid to ensure adequate security of lives and property as the Easter celebration approaches, the Rivers State Command of the NSCDC has deployed 1,580 men of tactical force to the 23 local government areas in the state. They were charged to discharge their duties with utmost diligence, alertness, and professionalism, noting that the public has very great expectations of the NSCDC. The House of Representatives has mandated its Committee on Federal Capital Territory to investigate and recover the alleged disappearance of 10,000 transit buses. The buses had been provided by the federal government for transport services within the Federal Capital Territory. The resolution followed the adoption of a motion raised during plenary on Tuesday by Honorable Ikenna Elezianya from Imo State. Honorable Elezianya said these buses were provided by the government to alleviate the suffering of citizens by easing the commuting challenges of civil and public servants to and from their offices to ensure effective discharge of their duties. Honorable Lezianya says these buses must be recovered and made operational to serve the core objectives for which they were provided.
Also notes that between 2003 and 2007, 5,000 buses were provided by the government to assist and complement the efforts of the government workers in accessing various offices within the Federal Capital Territory. Further notes that between 2010 and 2014, the federal government, in a bid to effectively improve public service delivery in line with global best practices, provided an additional 5,000 buses for the transportation of civil servants. Consigned that all the buses amounting to 10,000 provided by the government are gradually disappearing from the roads and are not being effectively managed by the FCT administration, and as such, not achieving its core objective, which is alleviating the transport challenges of the masses, especially in these trying times.
The House of Representatives has called for increased awareness in birth and death registration in the country. This decision follows the adoption of a motion moved by Honorable Bashiru Dawodu at plenary on Tuesday. Honorable Dawodu, in his motion, bemoaned poor record keeping of birth registration by the National Population Commission, which he said accounts for only 57% birth registration of children under the age of 5. The motion was, however, amended to include birth registration.
Also note that the federal government needs to know not only how many health centers are needed in the country, but the population growth across the country to correctly estimate the medications to be imported and the tariffs. Concerned about how a country without credible statistics can progress, as registration of birth is the most basic requirement in planning for children. Worried that when a country fails to follow through with the established pattern, the young ones are exposed to dangers and the public health and economic planning teams cannot cope. Cognizant that knowing the age distribution of the country's population makes it easier to plan, knowing how many will be of school age, in what year, providing adequate classrooms.
A non-governmental organization, the Health of Mother Earth Foundation, is continuing its drive to raise young and vibrant environmental rights activists. This time, it is visiting the chairman of the Bayelsa State Traditional Rulers Council to pass knowledge onto the younger generation. The group led a select team of youth, mostly undergraduates, to the ancient Ekpetiama Kingdom in Yenagoa local government area in a special series tagged Learning from the Wise. Our correspondent, Jesse Ese, completes the report.
For over 4 hours, Homef and this prospective environmentalist sat before the king of Ekpetiama Kingdom as he highlighted factors responsible for both human and environmental degradation in the Niger Delta.
And so he authorized it to.
He went down memory lane to explain how oil and gas exploration activities coupled with federal government's negligence have caused the people unbearable pain. However, the king advised these youngsters on how to change the narratives.
Take your theater round, campaign round. You could write books and poems and all, and even do comedy and sing around it. And then you can also take the oil and gas companies to court to challenge them for all their misdemeanor. So youth should not just go ahead and start beating people. There's a lot you can do, and you'll get better attention, particularly today with social media. You can get more attention using these media that we have to ensure that there is no hiding place for the oil and gas industry in this part of the world.
HOMEF gave reasons behind the Learning from the Wise initiative.
In our communities, we have persons who have knowledge, that have historical roots, knowledge of our culture, of our social relations, economic productivity, and other means that can help us address the issues of today as well as the issues of tomorrow. So learning from the wise is picking out those wise individuals, and then getting young people to sit at their feet, to hear their stories, to learn from them, and so develop their positions.
At the end of the meeting, the young participants also shared their experiences.
I've learned about my roots, the culture so far, how I could help preserve our environment.
Aim is to bridge the knowledge gap between the older generation and the younger generation. And from what we've learned so far, I mean, a lot of things that we were not aware of have been exposed by His Majesty. And
the group also vowed to continue with the initiative even beyond Nigeria. Jesse Ese, Plus TV News, Yenagoa.
The federal government has commenced emergency repair works on Akpongbo Bridge razed by fire on March 23rd. Federal Controller of Works in Lagos State, Olukayode Popola, led officials of the Federal Ministry of Works and Nigerian Society of Engineers on a technical visit to the bridge on Tuesday. The controller said that while integrity test results on the bridge were being awaited, a contractor had moved to site for emergency repair works to ensure quick reopening of the damaged section, which was closed to traffic. The late gospel music singer Osinachi Nwachukwu's death from injuries sustained from years of assault from her husband has generated intense interest and questions about the theology surrounding marriage. That is because she was said to have refused to get out of the toxic marriage in spite of repeated calls to do so, because she said it was a sin against her Christian faith. Many people today remain trapped in toxic marriages because they believe God hates divorce. All right, we do apologize for that. We were meant to have a pastor look at this very important issue with us, but I guess we'll have to postpone it. Moving forward now, the House of Representatives on Tuesday considered and approved the report of the House of Representatives Committee on Customs and Excise on a bill seeking to repeal the Customs and Excise Management Act enacted 63 years ago. The bill, when signed into law, will restrict the appointment of the Controller General of Customs within the service and make appointment of the same from outside illegal. Honorable Leke Abejide, who brought the motion before the Committee of the whole House, took members into the encumbrances associated with retaining such practice.
The most innovative inclusion in this bill is the objectives of eradicating problem of corruption, fraud and malpractice, together with inefficiencies and ineffectiveness in the operation of custom. Finally, this bill is in tone with ICT development, which is going to give the service the ICT demand for its operation in line with international best practice. This will ensure a model that can think 1,000 times faster than human beings do.
The federal government has been urged to investigate the importation of contaminated fuel. This advice came from the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Michael Olawale Cole during the quarterly press conference of the chamber. He advised the government to remove the fuel subsidy to help better the economy. Adebanke Oduni has more on this.
This was the quarterly press conference of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, LCCI. At the event, the chamber discussed several issues plaguing the country and recommendations were given. The president of the chamber, Mr. Michael Olawale Cole, stated that the federal government needed to dig into the seasonal fuel scarcity in Nigeria. Of particular concern to him was the recent bad fuel experience caused by the importation of contaminated fuel.
We had the unfortunate incidents of adulterated fuel import into the country in January this year, and then the partial suspension of the PRA implementation. Beyond the accusations and trading of blames, nobody has so far been sanctioned or punished for their roles in the importation of contaminated fuel. These developments reflect a failure of governance and regulation. We urge the government to please conduct an audit of what went wrong.
On the economy, Olawale Cole advised that forex rates need to be unified in a bid to aid transparency.
The Naira has recorded unprecedented volatility in the first quarter of this year, with a widening gap between the official NAFEX rate at 415 per US dollars and the BDC market rate of 589 USD. The Chamber's position that monetary authorities need to liberalize the forex market by unifying the multiple forex rates.
The chamber appealed to the government to find new ways of tackling insecurity, adding that a control must be created over gun ownership.
We have a duty to appeal to government. That's what we are doing. We know they are doing their best, but there's a lot of worry, which I know that even those who are in government feel those worries and concerns. There must be control over guns. Where unauthorized and unidentified people possess firearms without strict control, it's a big danger.
The president said the power grid, which has collapsed 3 times this year alone, can't power up Nigeria adequately, and that the solution to poor power supply is renewable energy.
It is becoming clearer that the national grid cannot supply sufficient power to meet our electricity demand. We therefore recommend that government must invest more in technology to fight pipeline vandalism. Government should create funding for critical infrastructure and special purpose intervention in the power sector. The most sustainable solution to Nigeria's power shortages is the transition to renewable energy.
The group urged the federal government to implement these recommendations to put the country on the right path. Adebanke Odunui, PlusTvAfrica.
Well, now I'll take you back to that story about the late gospel singer Osinachi Nwachukwu, who was killed by her husband, who died as a result of injuries which she got from beatings from her husband. And that incident has generated intense interest and questions about the theology surrounding marriage, because she was said to have repeatedly refused to leave that toxic marriage, believing that it is a sin against her Christian faith. Well, we have been joined by Pastor Femi Fasheru, resident pastor, KICC Lagos. Pastor Femi, good evening to you.
Good evening, Meno.
Well, you've written 2 books on marriage. One, Married But Single, and the second one, Get Marriage Right. This death of this gospel artist has raised questions surrounding the theology of marriage. Tell us, what does the Bible say about divorce?
The Bible is very, very clear about divorce. In the book of Deuteronomy was addressed, where the Bible made it clear that if for whatever reason you are unpleased with the person that you have married, you are free to let the person go. It's so clear. Jesus himself also alluded to this. He did say in Matthew chapter 19, he did say that divorce was allowed through Moses so that people won't end up killing themselves. And Jesus even went further to even give a condition to say, look, if the divorce is based on sexual immorality, this is the condition of remarriage. Jesus spoke about remarriage. So if we will speak about remarriage, then Jesus obviously approves divorce. Now, don't get me wrong. Bible is clear that God hates divorce. Even before Jesus began to speak about divorce or separation, he spoke about reconciliation. He spoke about forgiveness in Matthew chapter 18. So Bible is clear. Divorce is permitted, even though it is not the first option as far as God is concerned. But however, it is permitted. Now, this, a lot of people out there may just raise their eyebrows based to the thing I want to say right now. Divorce can happen in a marriage.
When and
without any,
how should
without
it
any
happen?
reason, and it's not sin.
When and how
Without,
should it happen?
It can happen if you are unpleased with the relationship. If you are unpleased with the relationship, you can. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 14, specifically, it says, it shall be if you are not pleased with her, then you shall let her go whenever she wishes. If you are not pleased with her.
Why is it that there is so much fear among some Christians that getting divorced will put them in God's bad book, that it could send them to hellfire, which is a major reason why someone like Osinachi refused to leave her marriage, because she says it is a sin against her faith. And many women, I can tell you that for sure, think so as well. Why do they think so?
For a long time, I thought so as well, because that's what was preached behind the pulpit for a long time. But as I began to teach and study and teach on marriage, I found out that it wasn't exactly like that. Yes, God hates divorce. That's the way the Bible puts it. God hates divorce. But however, because of the stubbornness of the heart of man, divorce was allowed. And we need to teach what the Bible says, not what we think. We need to go into the Bible. Jesus addressed the issue of remarriage. He wouldn't talk about remarriage if there is no allowance for divorce. It's clear. So there are conditions. And listen, it doesn't have to, you don't have to have a reason.
You don't have to have a reason.
You don't have to have a reason that is acceptable to anyone. You don't have to. You don't have to. That's the truth of the matter. You don't have to have a reason before, you say you're done. And what God is trying to do there is to say, look, you've got to respect your covenant. But for whatever reason, if you say you are out of this, you cannot just go and remarry. Know that when you are out of this, you're going to stay alone, except for these conditions. Number one, if you are coming out because of sexual immorality. Number two, because the person died. Number 3, if the person puts you out, if the person leaves, those 3 conditions will allow you to remarry. But you don't actually have divorce is not a sin under God, because God allowed it through Moses. Jesus seconded it. And this is the true gospel. However, we are in the ministry of reconciliation. That is why we want to walk through couples and walk through their differences and see if we can help them. Please don't blame the church. The work of the church is reconciliation. It is for the courthouses to separate and divorce. But for the church is reconciliation. So our job is to try and see if there are differences in your relationship. How can we help you walk through this using the word of God?
Okay. Well, the rate of failed marriages is on the increase globally. Why are so many people getting it wrong in marriage today?
Different reasons why people are getting marriage wrong. It could be because immature people are getting involved in marriage. Marriage is for a man and a woman. It is not for a boy and a woman. It is not for a girl and a man. It is not for a boy and a boy. And when we talk about a boy or a girl or a man or a woman, we are not talking about age. We are talking about you having understanding of what you're getting into. Do you have an understanding that when you want to leave and cleave with your spouse, you are basically going to be sharing your lives together? You are going to be sharing your vision together. You are going to be helping each other. The two of you are going to become one. Are you ready to leave me and become us? Are you ready for that? So the level of maturity. Sometimes people think, oh, I've got to marry because people expect me to marry. Something people get into marriage because they say, oh, my biological clock is ticking. Some people get married because of convenience. Some people get married because they need companion. That's a good reason to get married, but it's not all of the reason for you to get married.
Well,
So people marry for wrong reasons.
Yeah, you have said that the church should not be blamed. But incidentally, a large chunk of the number of marriages failing are marriages belonging to Christians. How does one reconcile the fact that these are people who belong to a faith that says marriage should, holds marriage in high esteem? Is it that they are not well prepared by their pastors and leaders in church, or what?
It's very difficult for you to be prepared to be fully prepared for marriage, because marriage is also a step of faith. Two different people coming together to come and live their lives together. Even though you've known each other, you've dated, you've been going out for years. Living together is different. Putting your finances together, putting your life together is a whole different ball game. It is after you left the house that you now basically move under the same roof, that you now begin to know yourself for who you are. That is when the fruit of the Spirit needs to now kick in. Pay each other. They owe themselves the responsibility of having to know one another and having to find a way to please one another. Of course, not to beat the other person into submission or into agreement.
Oh, thank you so much, Pastor Femi Fasharu. Pastor Femi Fasharu is a resident pastor of KICC. Time will not permit us to ask more questions about this, because this is something that's really in the heart of so many people right now. You've written 2 books, Married but Single and Get Married Right. And you said these books are on Amazon right now.
Yes, they are on Amazon. Married but Living Single basically speaks about, 2 people that are married but living under the same roof, but they don't share their lives together. They are not more than roommates, and basically that is bad for marriage. Get Married Right is actually a book to actually tell you what the mind of God is about marriage. It also speaks about divorce. It speaks about separation, and it also speaks about remarriage.
Thank you so much for your time, Pastor Femi Fasharu.
Thank you.
Well, still ahead, Scars shot dead in New York. Details when we return.
Creative Industry Power presents one event, 4 locations, 7 days, 10 countries, 168 hours of fun in the city of Lagos. It's the Creative Industry Festival, C-Fest, from the 1st of May to the 7th of May, 2022. Get ready to rock and be rocked the creative way. For more details, visit www.festival.creativeindustrygroup.ng.com. For advert bookings and exhibition stands, call 0913-569-9010. Maximum security guaranteed. C-Fest 2022, powered by Creative Industry Power.
Supported by PlusTvAfrica.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
Welcome back. You're still watching News Now on Plus TV Africa. Suspected Islamists have killed at least 20 civilians in attacks on Sunday and Monday in the Democratic Republic of Congo's Ituri province. The attackers were believed to be members of the Allied Democratic Forces, the ADF. The ADF is a Ugandan militia that has been active in eastern Congo since the 1990s and has killed scores of civilians in village raids. The assailants also killed 3 people in the nearby localities of Shwarimoya and Machwala on Sunday. Congo declared a state of siege last year over the worsening bloodshed in Ituri and North Kivu provinces. A South African court granted a further delay in former President Jacob Zuma's arms deal corruption trial. This is pending the outcome of his latest attempt to have the lead prosecutor taken off the long-running case. Zuma has pleaded not guilty to charges of corruption, money laundering and racketeering over a $2 billion arms deal in the 1990s. He alleges the lead prosecutor is biased against him, but the High Court and Supreme Court of Appeal have so far rejected his attempt to have the prosecutor replaced. And at least 45 people have been killed in floods and mudslides across South Africa's port city of Durban, the capital of KwaZulu-Natal province, following heavy rains in recent days. Video footage shared by private rescue workers and paramedics shows flooded city highways, submerged cars, and collapsed houses. Rescue and evacuation operations are currently underway. The Risk Management Department in the southeastern province of KwaZulu-Natal urged residents to stay at home and ordered those residing in low-lying areas to move to higher ground. Local media are reporting between 11 and 20 deaths, but these figures have not yet been confirmed. The South African government has raised $3 billion in 2 new sovereign bonds in international markets. This is a sign of continued investor confidence in the country's macroeconomic policy. The issuance comes on the heels of Moody's revising South Africa's outlook to stable from negative. The country's improved fiscal outlook would help the government to stabilize its debt burden over the medium term. The bonds were issued in 2 tranches, raising $1.4 billion from 10-year notes maturing in 2032 and a 5.875% coupon and a $1.6 billion from 30-year notes with a 7.30% coupon. A masked gunman has shot 10 persons in a New York subway. The perpetrator was still at large, and the incident was not currently being investigated as an act of terrorism. Smoke billowed out as the train car pulled into the 36th Street station in Brooklyn's Sunset Park neighborhood and opened its doors. Riders trapped inside poured out, some collapsing to the ground. Images showed streaks of blood on the platform. The suspect was reported as male with a heavy build, wearing a green construction-type vest and a hooded sweatshirt.
Just before 8:24 this morning, as a Manhattan-bound N train waited to enter the 36th Street station, an individual on that train donned what appeared to be a gas mask. He then took a canister out of his bag and opened it. The train at that time began to fill with smoke. He then opened fire, striking multiple people on the subway and in the platform. Again, we will describe.
Price of liquefied petroleum gas price rises 25% in 3 weeks. That's in business news after this short break.
You're welcome to the business news. My name is Adebanke Odunui. Nigeria generated a sum of $72 million from electricity export in 2021, a naira equivalent of 29.95 billion naira, using the official exchange rate of 416 naira to $1. This is according to data from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The amount generated in the review year represents a 14.5% decline compared to $84.26 million recorded in the previous year, and 49.4% drop as opposed to the $142.3 million received as payment in 2019. In the past 5 years, Nigeria earned a sum of $543.11 million from electricity exports to neighboring countries such as Niger, Benin, and Togo Republic. Nigeria continues to export power to neighboring countries despite continuous power outages in the country as a result of recurrent grid collapses. The price of liquefied petroleum gas (LPG), otherwise known as cooking gas, has risen by 25.7% in the last 3 weeks, as 12.5 kilogram now sells at 8,800 from 7,000. Findings reveal that 1 kilogram rose by 11% to 1,000 from 900. 3 kilogram rose by 10% to 2,200 from 2,000. 6 kilogram rose by 15.8% to 4,400 naira from 3,800 naira, while 12.5 kilogram rose by 25.7% to 8,800 naira from 7,000. Meanwhile, the liquefied petroleum gas retailers branch of NUPEG had called on the government to come up with a clear policy direction for the development of LPG in the country to forestall the consistent rise in the price of the product. Oil prices climbed on Tuesday as fears of a demand downturn in China eased after Shanghai relaxed some COVID-19 related restrictions, and OPEC warned it would be impossible to increase output enough to offset lost Russian supply. Brent crude futures were up $3.33 or 3.4% to $101.81 a barrel, and U.S. West Texas intermediate contracts were up $3.303 or 3.2% to $97.33 a barrel. Both contracts had settled down around 4% on Monday. On Monday, Shanghai said that more than 7,000 residential units had been classified as lower risk areas after reporting no new infections for 14 days, and its district have since been announcing which specific compounds can be opened. World equities fell to their lowest levels in almost a month. The dollar remained strong, and Tuesday's sales regained control of the world's largest bond market. U.S. 10-year Treasury yields have risen to a new high of over 2.80%, the last level seen in late 2018, with aggressive policy response to inflation from the Federal Reserve Board for Economic Growth. European equities fell 1%, Japan's Nikkei stock average fell 1.81%, and U.S. equity futures trading showed a weak opening on Wall Street. All of this kept MSCI's global equity index at its lowest level in almost a month. Economists surveyed by Reuters predict that U.S. Consumer Price Index CPI will rise 8.9% compared to 8.4% year-on-year in March. And that is the business news. I am Adebanke Udunui. The news continues.
Well, thank you, Banke. And entertainment news is up next.
Britney Spears has announced she is pregnant with her third child. This is coming 6 months after an LA judge ended the controversial guardianship the pop icon, barring her from having more children. This sparked reactions, with a post which suggests she may be expecting twins. A judge in November dissolved the conservatorship long overseen by Spears' father, an arrangement the singer said had prevented her from having a contraceptive IUD removed. She's already mother of 2 teen sons, Cian and Jaden, with her ex-husband Kelvin Federline. Carrion Rashid Franklin clearly had a not-so-fun weekend. The Song of Gospel singer Kirk Franklin has been arrested without bond in Los Angeles for his alleged connection to a mother of a missing woman. According to court records, the actor was arrested on Sunday. He was booked into Los Angeles County Jail and assigned to a permanent housing location in the jail. Larry Reard spelled the details of the arrest via his social media page. He claimed that he talked to Carrion from jail, and he told him that he was wrongfully arrested after being stopped for his taillight. Carrion told Larry that when he was stopped, the police allegedly found a gun in his car, which he claimed didn't belong to him. He reportedly had to be extradited to Texas to deal with a separate case. There is no bond for the charges in Texas. DJ Khaled has got his name cemented into Hollywood's history. After more than 2 decades in the industry, the rapper/record executive was honored with his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The ceremony drew a number of other big names in the industry, such as Jay-Z, Sean P., Diddy Combs, Tanya Taylor, and Fat Joe showed up to help celebrate the milestone. In introducing the honoree, Fat Joe complimented Khaled's all-orange look before recalling memories of how they first met and grew into friends. In his speech, Diddy praised Khaled's determination. Meanwhile, Khaled got emotional as he took the podium. He said, "I want my star to represent the light, the love that shines on everybody. God puts me on this earth to be a light."
The very best in sports is next.
Hello and welcome to Sports News on Plus TV Africa. Amaju Pinnick, president of the Nigeria Football Federation, has publicly explained his reason for his preference for hiring foreign managers for the Super Eagles rather than relying on homegrown coaches, while stating that he has the utmost respect for indigenous coaches, particularly those who excelled as national team players. The NFF boss stated that the things he knows and sees that are not widely known cause him to lean more toward foreign coaches. They cannot be swayed by sentiments. All that they are after is success. This is why they come with their tactics and methods, he said about foreign coaches. It is not that I do not believe in coaches but they need to develop that mindset. We have coaches that are quite competent, but the question is, are they good enough for us for now? I am a Nigerian and a firm believer in Nigeria, but our circumstances are different. Pinnick, who remains downcast by Nigeria's miss from the Qatar 2022 World Cup, suggests that key ingredients for success, as seen in the case of Teranga Lions of Senegal, are missing in today's Nigeria's setting. At that count for a lot. Now, former Liverpool striker Emile Heskey says it's great to see the club fighting on all fronts and thinks they can challenge for everything this season. Heskey, who won a treble with Liverpool in 2001, thinks his old club can go one better as they compete for a historic quadruple. After Liverpool's comeback against Barcelona in the Champions League back in 2019, when they overturned a 3-goal deficit, the former Red believes this week's quarter-final second leg against Benfica is not over, but is confident they have one foot already in the semi-finals.
Yeah, look, I think you can never say a tie is over because again, when we brought Barcelona back to here, we thought tie was over. So you can never say a tie is over, but you'll be very, very confident that we've dipped our toe into the next round. And then obviously with the FA Cup, it's not going to be an easy game, as we all know, on a huge pitch. Some entertaining football we're expecting, but it's great to see the club still fighting on all fronts, and not giving up anything. You know, years gone by, you're like, I don't want to play in the League Cup. I don't want that. Let's focus on this. No, let's focus on everything. Let's go and win everything. And this is what the fans love. This is what the club loves, and it's great to see.
And in the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers have sacked coach Frank Vogel after their failure to make the NBA playoffs. The Lakers ended up with a 33-49 record, despite having a roster featuring LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and Anthony Davis. Although injuries hit the aging Lakers squad during the campaign, their performances were enough to prompt the dismissal of Vogel, who led the team to the NBA title in the coronavirus-hit 2020 season. Lakers GM Rob Pelinka did his best to praise Vogel despite his departure, but said his replacement needed to be someone with a strong voice who can inspire the players. Meanwhile, Russell Westbrook was far less diplomatic, saying he never felt he got a fair chance to show his best in Los Angeles. Westbrook has a player option to remain with the Lakers, but did not reveal if he would choose to stay.
Dave, I think today's not going to be a day of like finger pointing or unwinding all the specific reasons. We just felt organizationally at the highest level it was time for a new voice. And those decisions are made at the very top level in a collaborative way by our basketball operations department and ultimately with Jeannie and Tim and the leaders of our organization. We just felt like it was time for a new voice. And that's not to say anything against the incredible accomplishments that Frank Vogel's had. He was a great coach here and he's going to go on to be a great coach somewhere else. We just felt like it was time for a new leader, and that's why we made the decision today that we did.
And that's all the sports news we have for you for now. Join us next time. My name is Mikhail Tinubu. Have a good night.
And the main news again. President Buhari seeking Senate's approval for fuel subsidy increase to 4 trillion naira. President Buhari has received a report on extended continental shelf project. And Islamists have killed 20 civilians in eastern Congo. Well, that's the news now. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Maureen Menong-Ezigwe. Thanks for watching.
What's good, people? What's going on? I'm sure you had a beautiful night rest, and of course, this is still the biggest entertainment show on the planet. You know, where we bring you the in-depth analysis and dissection of the biggest entertainment stories. And of course, you know how we do it. We're never alone. And when I say we, I mean Elile and I. What's good, girl?
I am fine.
How far? You're looking good today, man. In black. Yesterday was Lady in Red, and today the Lady in Black. Oh no, today is red, today black, everything black. What? Black.
Why? How are you?
I'm very well. I got some rest yesterday. Even though I was out again yesterday.
You will not rest.
See, out to know they finished.
Enjoyment
they finish too. So yeah, for now, I was out yesterday, but today I plan to get some proper good sleep. Like,
let us hope.
Matter of fact, I'm saying it now so that they can release me early on live television, so that I can go and sleep. Like, I actually need it.
Did they send you to where you went to? Did they send you to where you went to?
I'm hustling for the company.
Okay, all right.
I'm networking.
Okay, now.
You get it now?
Yes, I do.
No, you know what I meant? Just, oh yeah, I saw OBO, the baddest yesterday. And he pulled up in his Lamborghini, like the thing was like, vroom,
this is the type of place you're supposed to be inviting me to.
Really?
Let me go and see baddest.
I saw OBO, the baddest. I saw Victoni. I saw YC. I saw who else? I think it's this one more. Lo J was also there.
My baby.
Everybody pulled up yesterday. I was like, okay, that's the kind of
that's
place you should be going to,
right.
actually. And then,
if not